Westbrook, incredibly athletic, plays 100 miles an hour, never cheats you with effort, attacks the basket with vigor, can put up points. But neither of them are shooters. How does this really make Houston better? Wall is a couple of years younger. I got it. Dollars are comparable. It ain't going to make much difference for Houston. It ain't going to make much difference for the Wizards. Even though Westbrook with Bradley Beal could do some things, no doubt. But that was going to be the case for the Wizards with John Wall. So it's got my eyebrows raised as to why they would do that. Especially when Tommy Shepard just said days ago, we ain't trading John Wall. That was a lie. But here's the bigger thing. If you Houston, what is this supposed to do for you? Seems to me James Harden really got to get out of there now. He really got to get to Brooklyn now. Again, Wall ain't much worse than Westbrook. They're both great. They're just similar. So, you Houston, what you getting out of it? You got a first-round pick. That's future reference. That's fine. But that doesn't do much for James Harden, who's after a championship. He after the chip. We'll see. Forget John Wall and Russell Westbrook for a second. Now it's about what James Harden is going to do.
NBA training camps continuing Wednesday. The league announced that the first round of testing showed 48 positive tests. Now you have 546 players tested from the 24th to the 30th of November. So the rate is positive of 8.8. NBA will be testing all of its players daily throughout the season. Season tips off with the Warriors and the Nets, part one of the NBA's doubleheader on opening night, December 22nd. Defending champion Lakers and the Clippers in Game 2. On Wednesday, December 23rd, Celtics and Bucks square off, followed by Chris Paul making his Suns debut. That's going to be a fun team to watch against Luka Doncic and the Mavericks on ESPN.
One big thing.
A former number one overall pick being traded for a former MVP and perennial all-star seems like a big deal. But is it? Look, as a Washingtonian, I'm as excited as I could be to see Westbrook in town. Nobody plays harder than he does, and I applaud him for that. Could it help the Wizards become a playoff team in tandem with Bradley Beal? Sure, so sign me up for that. But what is it really? Kind of your headache for our headache. It's your immovable contract for ours. Our guy Wob hit the nail on the head on Twitter with how he imagined the trade went down, with the Wizards saying, good luck, Rockets, you too. Wall hasn't played in almost 2 years. Around town, the word was that the organization was done with him. But how are you going to find a dance partner at over $40 million a season? Well, look no further than Houston, who makes Westbrook the first MVP to be traded in consecutive off seasons ever. Over the last 5 years, 78 players have taken at least 2,000 jump shots. Russell Westbrook's effective field goal percentage is dead last. Guess who is second to last? The guy he was traded for. They are two of the three players in the last decade to have led the NBA in turnovers in multiple seasons. But the headline still screams, former number one overall pick for the MVP, which it is. But beyond that, what is it? Coming up next on SportsCenter, a visit with Mark Few. It's the last second wins for Texas against Carolina. Major trade in the NBA. Quite a headline anyway. Rockets have agreed to trade Russell Westbrook to Washington for John Wall and a protected first in 2023. Wall hasn't played since the day after Christmas of 2018 and has 3 years and more than $132 million left on his contract. Westbrook joins a Wizards team built around Bradley Beal, who averaged the second most points in the NBA last season and yet somehow is still woefully underrepresented in terms of all NBA teams in my estimation. Washington also has a sharpshooter, Davis Bertans, who got paid, was coveted this offseason. Lottery picks in the last couple of years, including Denny Avdia. Steve, do you think it's a playoff team?
Yes.
I agree. Part of it's the East, but...
Correct.
As for Houston, John Wall reunites with DeMarcus Cousins after they played together at Kentucky. Speaking of reunites, Westbrook gets back together with Scott Brooks, who was with in OKC. Be interesting to see how the game meshes with Harden, who became the first player since Michael Jordan to average 30 in 3 consecutive seasons. Adrian Wojnarowski, who blew up our rundown with his tweet about this news, joins us now. My guy Jeff and all of his Wizard buddy fans here in D.C. are bumming to see Wall, a perennial all-star, leave town. But Woj, he's a guy coming off an Achilles, and you know, explosiveness was his calling card. What does Houston think they're getting in Wall?
Well, they think they're getting a player who wants to be with the Rockets and who has shown in the months since, has been working out this summer, that he's got some explosion back. He's expanded his game. He's shooting a three-pointer well with all of this time off. But listen, this was a trade of 2 players on 2 teams who wanted to go in the other direction. Russell Westbrook wanted to be in Washington, reunited with Scotty Brooks, play with Brad Beal, and John Wall wanted to play with James Harden, wanted to go to Houston, and finally they got that deal done this afternoon. The 2 general managers hadn't talked in weeks, and Russell Westbrook's agent Thad Fouché really got them talking today, and then within a few hours they had a deal.
Well, as you know better than anybody, if the right deal comes along, anything can happen. But can we mostly assume that this means Harden remains in Houston for the time and Beal remains in Washington for the time?
Yeah, our Tim McMahon was reporting today that Houston stance has not changed. They expect to play through here with James Harden. They don't want to trade him. And I think they have more of a cushion to work with than Washington does because Beal's free agency comes up sooner. But the hope in Houston is that Wall can, regain some of his old form, that those two can find a chemistry, and that James Harden, starts to think again about wanting to stay longer term with the Rockets. But right now, they plan to certainly start the season with James Harden and John Wall as their backcourt.
Adrian Wojnarowski, the best, as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Drew and Drew say, good to see you. We'll see you down the road. NBA champs making news. LeBron James agrees to a 2-year, $85 million extension with the Lakers. Deal ties James through the 22-23 season with the Lakers, which would be his 20th in the league. Average better than 25, better than 10, and almost 8 rebounds, while finishing second in regular season MVP voting and winning a ring and getting a Finals MVP. As LeBron's salary increases, so does his age. He's owed just over $39 this upcoming season, and that extension kicks in after that, replacing the player option. James will make $44.5 when he's 38 years old. Hope Dave McMenamin enjoyed the 3 minutes off he got out of the bubble and the season getting ready to start. We're saddling back up and riding our Lakers horse here. I don't know that there's ever a bad time to take $80-some-odd million in guaranteed money, but why now for LeBron?
It kind of follows the same playbook, Scott, that he had back in 2016. He wins the championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He submits his commitment and loyalty to the franchise because that gave him everything he wants out of his NBA experience, being able to put his body, his mind, his family through an NBA season in order to get the ultimate prize of winning a championship and validating his existence, trying to strive for greatness for the greatest of all time. He did this again here, win the championship with the Lakers. Why did he have to think about going anywhere else? And of course, the other caveat, just last year we were talking about him being in his mid-30s, missing the playoffs, having the biggest injury of his career. Well, this actually guards against some of that, gives it an extra year of guaranteed money. $85 million, not a bad payday.
Well, the ultimate thing, I think, for LeBron, and he spoke of it, is maybe someday teaming up with his son. Now, look, Bronny, who knows if he's going to be an NBA talent, if he's an NBA talent. We don't know that yet. But if we do the math here, Dave, you don't have to squint to see what it would be. Free agency sets up around the time, presumably, Bronny could be heading to the NBA. All right, is it reasonable to connect those dots?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, think about it. LeBron put it out there in the 2017 Finals that the greatest accomplishment of his career would be someday playing alongside his son in the NBA. This contract ends in 2023, the same time that his son Bronny is slated to graduate from high school. Now, right now with the current CBA, Bronny couldn't come right from high school to the NBA, but who knows if the CBA will have adjustments between now and then. And certainly, even if Bronny is not necessarily an outright lottery pick, if he's a borderline guy who you think could help your franchise potentially, while also be a guy who brings the gravitational pull of his father, who's one of the greatest players of all time, that's a real possibility.
Sure it is. And I think it's reasonable, given the type of fitness and commitment to fitness, Dave, that LeBron has shown, to say, even like to a degree like Brady.